This is Non-Monogamous Mark with the Ethical and Consensual Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, and I'm here today with a friend of mine. And interesting, we've got a very long history together, but yet today is really the first time that we've ever gotten together.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. We have probably known each other for, well, we were talking about this earlier, and I've been coming up on 10 years into my non-monogamous life, and you probably were following me for the year and a half before then when I was going through my transition from non-monogamy to monogamy, or from monogamy to non-monogamy. Yes. And so then we just kind of became friends along the way. Somewhere along the way we said, hey, let's chat, and we had messages back and forth and what have you, and we've over the years kept track of each other on Facebook. And the first time I've ever met you in person was then when my partner Chris and I came out to a workshop that you did. Yeah. And then I haven't seen you since. That was quite a few years ago until now.
We're busy.
But so I'm going to then introduce my friend Wendy. This is
Hello.
Wendy Wolf. And let's just start out by going ahead and telling people a little bit about yourself and what you do.
In general?
Whatever you want.
I am a spiritual healer and teacher, and my focus these days is very much about being the captain of our own ship, which is why I feel like maybe we're really
we really have a very similar focus there. And that's what we've had a lot of conversation about. You learning about how my journey has brought me to where I'm at, and then a little less time spent, but learning about your journey and bringing you to where you've been. And it comes down to we reach a place in our life where we become very cognizantly, and I call it intentionally, aware of things in our life, and where then we go and we start creating our own life, as opposed to just allowing things to come and go in our life. And how does that then work in, how does that correlate with the work that you do now?
Well, on the topic of, what this audience is about, we were talking, I did the math that for about 35 years I've been, actively poly, and a little less than that actively bisexual, but those weren't the things that I got really stuck and stopped on. I got slowed down, but not stuck and stopped. I got stuck and stopped around not following my true path spiritually, and not opening to my gifts spiritually, and kind of being stopped about spiritual concepts and concepts about God or what's right and wrong. That's where I got stopped, and with my own health and wellness. So it's that stuff. I got so packed, I'm like a train that stopped, and then the track and the cars kept hitting and making a mess.
You had a lot of momentum, is what we like to see. That a lot of momentum going against your own inner being.
Against my inner being. And so when I started to really open up to who I really was, a whole nother level, I started deep meditation and the things that I teach now. Deep meditation that works, that has incredible levers to just be able to be with what is, let go of what doesn't work, let in what does work, and even listen to my own emotions, or my own sexual impulses, or my own power, or these things, as well as where spirit is flowing, what my source is. Where I feel the light coming from, let's say. When I started to open to that more, my life started the mess started getting cleaned up, and I started getting my life back.
And we both talked about how religion had its roots in both of our lives, and it's still not religion, but our spirituality now has a very important part in our life.
Yeah.
But we've come to understand how we as individuals can start to pull against ourselves and our inner being, because we're trying to please another being, like we're trying to please God, like I used to do, try to live my life to please God, which then I'm really living my life to please the people at church.
Yes.
And realized one day that I really wasn't doing a very good job at it. And for you then, what really transpired, what happened with that is that you actually became very ill.
Very ill. For a long time I was bedridden, and I couldn't work for years and years. I had some accidents. I was broken in a few ways that would not heal, and so I was very stuck and very much in pain, very, very much in pain, and despair for years.
And so I think that part of your story is how finding and allowing that inner being to start to have a place in your life and to have a voice in your own life. Not necessarily a voice to an audience like you do now, but to have that inner being just have a voice in your own life.
Yes.
Instead of repressing that inner being and suppressing it. And that was certainly the story of my life, is that for so many years that I would just repress and suppress myself in many ways, sexually and in my life with emotionally, because of course I'm a man. I'm not supposed to be an emotional man. I'm supposed to be, just tough it out, and and then how I learned to just work it out, whether it be my relationship, and things with my marriage. For 20 years I tried to work it out, and then with trying to in my business, and yes, I had success, but it wasn't sustainable because the energy just wasn't right. And so my way of learning, I guess the hard way, was much different than your way, but we both end up kind of in the end in the same kind of a situation, and that is just in an unhealthy place. And we come to a place in our life one day and then realizing this is not a good place to be, and this is not a good, I call it the trajectory of our life. And it's like, how is your trajectory for your finances, your love, your sex life, your health and fitness, your recreation, your relationships, all these areas, how are they headed? And there's no reason, just because we get older, that they can't be improving instead of going downhill. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly where your difficulties, you instead of becoming a victim, so to speak, you took a look at the things involved in your life, and you started to appreciate them and realize that they were part of your life to help you to be who you are, and then you started to heal yourself from that.
Yeah. You said it differently earlier in our conversation, but I'm constantly saying these days, where we trip is our treasure.
Where we trip is our treasure.
Yeah. So,
talk about that a little more.
Yeah. What the very things that I was resisting in my life, the very things that I couldn't have, were the very things that when I stopped finally running and hiding and my own isometrics, were the places to unpack and say, oh wow, look, here's lost parts of myself, here's some of my own wisdom, oh, here's some of my calling right here, mm-hmm. in the very place that I can't be with. Mm-hmm. So, Joseph Campbell said it like this. He said, our treasure is in the cave we fear to enter.
Yeah.
But I'm bummed. So, for me, I was so stuck. I mean, when I started my training, it took me 10 minutes to walk like 2 blocks. Mm-hmm. It took me, all I could do in a day was to go to a meditation class and come back. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's taken a while for my body to catch up, even though as soon as I started doing this, within months I could work some, and the weight started falling off me that was there. I started having a lot more light in my life. But I had to come to the place where holding on to my old concepts, particularly about God or whatever, I was just willing to say, okay, let me try something new. And I went in and found, myself, and I found that I could trust myself and my own voice, my inner voice. I'd always been chasing around after everybody else's wisdom.
In my experience with religion, I was drilled into me, you cannot trust yourself. And so, because you've got to take and listen to the wisdom of others, because you can't trust yourself, because if you trust yourself, then that's probably the devil speaking to you. Mm-hmm. And so that was my baggage that I had to deal with.
Mm-hmm. The old time, my favorite Christian teacher, Dr. Bruce Morgan, he'd always talk about his Baptist upbringing of the world, the flesh, and the devil. Mm-hmm. And I found those things to be so helpful to look at, like, okay, so what is the world telling us? The world's telling us we have to be successful. The world's telling us our mind is the most important thing. The world's telling us sex sells. The world's telling us, we have to be rich. Like, okay, so that's world information, a lot of which the church is following along with. Mm-hmm. And so we can pick and choose. And then the flesh is very interesting, because from my perspective, this is the part to really distinguish that, we have these bodies with needs, mm-hmm. And we have survival needs. We need to feel safe, and we have emotional needs. We need to listen to what the body says, and we have sexual needs. We need to be able to open those places of who we really are, how we connect with others, and how we create together in bodies. And opening to our own natural power in the body. These things are really important. And what I encourage people to do is to love our bodies like we love our lovers, or our children, or our pets, our companion animals.
I say quite often that you have to really focus on loving yourself first. Of course, that's no new concept, but you're saying love your bodies. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, all these things, our emotionality, our sexuality, our survival impulses, our control drives, our rationality, our judgments, these are wonderful things.
There you go. So you're saying, don't keep ignoring those things. Don't keep suppressing and repressing them, but pay attention to them.
What happens is we go to either extreme. It's so important to own them, hear them, love them. They all deserve a place, like in the car of our lives, mm-hmm. but they don't get to drive.
Okay.
Right? Because any of those things, like, we don't let the kids drive. Mm-hmm. They don't get to decide when they go to bed, mm-hmm. right? But we hear them.
Yes.
Okay, honey, pink socks today, great. So from that perspective, we get to be the captain of our lives. Mm-hmm. And then we get to say, okay, so I'm feeling like this, but I'm going to act like this. And I can honor that part of me. You can honor that, but you get to choose. Totally get to choose.
Yeah.
And that's, from my perspective, that's a spiritual choice. You can call it whatever you want. Mm-hmm. For me, that's a spiritual choice. But then all those other friends, the rationality, which always loves to think it's in charge. Our mind, we're told, well, we think, therefore we are. Mm-hmm. We're told, think and go rich. It's like, the poor little mind is just, like, how's it supposed to do all that? Exactly. It's very exhausting.
You had mentioned just a moment ago, and there was a quote, and I cannot remember who said this quote. I've posted it on Facebook before. I've talked about it in videos before, but there's this quote that I love. And it says, you have to be willing to let go of the life that you planned for yourself in order to invite into yourself the life that's waiting for you.
Yes.
And that certainly has been so you're an example of that. My life is an example of that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I let go of the life that I had planned. Even in my poly life, I had always planned that, I wanted to develop this intentional family unit, and I had this idea. And when Kathy came along in my life, I had this idea that, for the first year particularly, we just thought, okay, well, this is all going to happen just like I had planned it. And it was all so exciting. And then Kathy decided that she didn't want to quite go along with the plan. Mm-hmm. And so then my life was in turmoil. What am I going to do with that? And, we had to sort through that and work through that. And because I let go of the life that I had planned, I opened the doors to the life that was waiting for me. And it's so much better than what I had planned. Mm-hmm. And so part of your experience is the same way.
Yeah, one way I like to talk about it is, like, I always love my box. You know, the box that I'm living in, the box that how I believe things are,
Mm-hmm.
and spirituality is. And I believe my source, the light, love, truth, the way, whatever you call, I believe source is always like pulling me out of the box. Or me and source are like spiritually creating that, as I'm like, there's parts of me like, no, just let me stay in my box. And then I get out of the box and immediately I'm creating the next box.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just like,
we like to put this structure around us all the time.
And some of that is really good. Some of it's good. We have
but
to operate.
We have to operate. But when you can really learn to let go of some of that,
yes.
that's when you experience the liberation in all the areas of your life.
Yes.
And with what I try to do is part of my message is that we want you to build a life where you're increasing your abundance, your liberation, and your freedom.
Yes.
Because what happens through life, if you follow the normal course of life, is that you increase not your abundance, but you increase your dependency. And you increase where you have more, you have less of freedom and less liberation. You have more obligation, you have more suppression and repression and depression, and then you're on medications, and then you're not healthy. And one day, you reached a point where you said, whoa, let's put the brakes on all that. I want to start figuring out how to get healthy. And a part of that then was you started to learn about meditation. Mm-hmm. And that's, as I discussed recently about my 30-day challenge to myself, where I challenged myself to meditate every day, and I challenged myself to read every day, and I challenged myself to make a video every day. And it was a great, wonderful experience. I loved that 30-day challenge I gave to myself, and yet I also learned that the hardest thing for me to do was to meditate every day. And so that is a strength of yours, and I hope that we can come back and make a video where we have you talking more about meditation, because I know that's a big part of what you now help and work with other people is in meditation. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little more about how meditation played a role in your life in helping you to create the life that you're now creating?
Let me start by saying I was a terrible meditator. I thought I knew what meditation was. I'd gone to a couple meditation weekends in my life, and I could do it, but it was horrible and painful, and who needs it? It wasn't until I started the kind of meditation that I do now, which I started to learn about 15, 16 years ago, actually, that helped me, because in the paradigm that's become common, some of my friends joke about this. They're like, wait, you teach meditation? What do you do? All right, and we're going to meditate. Okay, ready, set, don't do anything. Ready, set, don't think anything. It's like, that's not how I do it. I found a kind of meditation that has tools to help lever my intention. Mm-hmm. So now that I've done it a long time, I can do the just sit there meditation for a while and really actually just be. But I had so much pain when I came in, I couldn't sit with myself. I'd go to class and I'd be just like, oh, please, when are you going to stop so I can get up and stop feeling all this horror in myself, all of this pain. I had so much pain. And but doing these tools, and the thing is, what I teach is it's designed to be used all the time, everywhere. It's designed for us to be present and in charge, and comfortable on the earth, comfortable opening spiritually, and comfortably seeing and being with what is, and letting in what we'd like, the new experiences, energies that we'd like, and letting go of what we don't like, all the time. And of course we practice that by sitting for some of it. So when I teach, we sit, but I strongly recommend that people use it when they live.
And so, like you talked about physical pain.
But there's spiritual pain.
But that was what I wanted to bring out. That various people that we're out there talking to on this video, some will may be experiencing physical pain, some will may be experiencing spiritual pain, some of those emotional pain, others mental pain. There's a whole lot of different kinds of pain. Yeah. And yet, what do we do with that pain so much in our life is that we just try to ignore it and try to suppress it, try to repress it. You know, and instead of focusing and saying, okay, let's find out what this pain is there to tell me and to teach me.
Yes.
We don't want our pain to be. For me, one of the greatest things in my poly experience, we talked about this earlier, is that I use the pain of heartbreak to be a great friend and teacher to myself. And so often, though, people take pain and they use it to just do a retreat.
Yes.
And like, no, I don't want to ever experience that pain again, so I don't want to let my heart be that open again.
Right.
And I refuse to do that.
Yeah.
So whether you're talking about emotional pain or spiritual pain or physical pain or mental pain and anguish, whatever kind of pain that you have in your life, that really you start to heal yourself when you start to pay attention to that pain then.
Yes. And the first little bit of doing that is hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's hell. To stop running.
No doubt.
It's like to stop. We've been running and stuff is chasing us, whether it's fear or pain or that we think we suck or whatever, shame. We're running and it's chasing us, and we're doing our addictions, we're doing our avoidances, we're doing anything to not feel it, and it's chasing, and it's getting bigger and bigger and faster and faster. This is our lives for most of us, and so it really takes something at first to turn and face it and let it hit you. Right? It sucks, but what I found is these tools. That yes, it still sucks, but it sucks for a second, a minute, 10 minutes to be able to all of a sudden already start transmuting it. And that is so important. But even if we don't have tools, a lot of people just face it and let it bowl them over. And it's devastating, but they have to handle it. And then it's half done already. And when we let it hit us.
I wish we could go on for hours so that I could take your time and have you talk more about these tools. But since we don't have that time, I want to make sure then the people in my audience, and I'll put a link to the description here on the video and so forth. But I want to make sure that they know because you are out there online helping people to acquire these tools. So where can they go to get these tools from you?
Well, my main site is called healgrowshine.com. And I also have an initiative that I'm really focusing on lately called Be a Captain of Your Life. But it's really all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. So we heal from a lot of us have had a hard old things. We're under it. So we have to heal up from under it and then grow into who we really are. And then have fruit, shine the light that we're here to shine.
And if you want to know more about what I'm doing as Non-Monogamous Mark and what ECNM Lifestyles Association is doing, then go ahead and click on that link below, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.